Drip irrigation is another system that we use here at the student farm. This is plastic drip tape that has an emitter every 8 inches in the tape, and it provides a even, steady amount of water directly to the plant roots and not on any other part of the bed at all. So just by its very concentrating of the water, it's reducing losses to evaporation. And if you time your water well, you can tailor the water amount to exactly the amount of evapotranspiration that's happening in the field over the summer. This drip tape system requires about 10 to 20 pounds per square inch of water pressure. And at the farm, when we set up our underground system, we would have a 4-inch riser for the sprinkler system, and then right next to it, we would set up an outlet for the drip system. Here we have a system that has a separate pipe coming out of the ground for the drip, and it goes to a timer, and these timers can be set to let the water through at any interval that you think will work best for your crops. There are many wells, or if you're pumping out of a canal or you're pumping out of a river, where you're going to have sediment and you're going to have algae and you're going to have all kinds of sand particles that won't go through the drip system. It'll plug up the drip system within a day. So it's really important to have a filter. This is a typical drip filter here for a hose spigot, but it's similar to what you would buy if you had a larger system. Basically, there's a filter that goes inside a container. The water goes through it, and the sediment, algae, whatever, the impurities are all filtered out. The slightly tricky thing about this is that if you really have a high level of impurities, this filter can clog up pretty quickly, and you need to clean it often. There are really large systems, sand media filters, that have backflush functions that are worth buying if you have a large acreage and you have impure water. The size of the manifold is a function of how many drip lines you want to put out. What you see here is 2-inch polyethylene manifold that we have about 30 beds that this is providing drip irrigation to. We have punched a hole in the edge of the manifold, and in that hole we have put a what's called a barb starter. So this barb punches back into the manifold, and when the water comes through, the edge of the barb pushes against the manifold, and there shouldn't be a leak. And then on this side of the barb, there's a spin lock coupler. This collar goes up and down on the barb, and when you put the drip tape over the barb and you spin the coupler over it, it should be so strong that you can't pull it off. And so it's a very secure fit. So we put this back into the manifold, and when the water comes through, it comes out of the manifold and goes into the drip tape. So the drip tape can be either on the surface or underground, or it could be covered by a plastic mulch. It depends on what your environment is like. It depends on how much you want to control weeds. It depends on what the crop is. Most of the time, we bury our drip tape about 5 inches down in order to keep it underground away from the crows. We have very smart crows here, and if the drip tape is on the surface, they figure out that they can come and peck a hole in it and get water. And so if we leave it on the surface, we have to fix it a lot. We've learned the hard way. Another strategy is to have the drip on the surface but cover it with a plastic mulch. We have a couple crops like peppers that we like to have the water very near to the pepper when we transplant it into the ground, and then we can control weeds using the plastic mulch. and we don't have to bury the drip tape because it's covered up by the mulch and the crows don't see it. In addition, because the mulch is covering up the ground, weeds don't grow. If you have the drip tape on the surface, you'll get weeds growing wherever the water comes out. And that just adds to the work of things. Another advantage of drip irrigation is that if you don't have a lot of volume of water available, you don't need as much to run drip lines. So a typical drip line, and it varies on the different flow rates you get for the drip line, but it uses about a gallon per minute per 100 linear feet. You don't need that large volume of water for the drip that you do for the sprinkler or for the furrow irrigation.